There I was, a teenager in high school, had very close friends, a big group of circle of friends, girlfriends that I hung out with on a regular basis. And one of my closest friends that I considered a best friend was actually going through something very traumatic, and I had no clue because she did a great job of hiding what she was experiencing. I remember she started to pull away from activities, our activities we did together, extracurricular activities, social activities we did together, like track, cheerleading, things like that. And then she just started not even having a personality as far as smiling anymore. It's just, she was withdrawn and just really, really sad. And then one day after class, I actually walked up on her and noticed on her arm, she had an extremely large bruise. I was shocked, I was devastated and scared, and I had no clue how I could actually help one of my closest friends that was going through this type of abuse. After all, I had never experienced it myself and really didn't know what to do, but I recognized her not saying she had been abused was actually something I was picking up on, something that I recognized the unspoken words was a cry for help. And that's when I realized that was the start of my journey to help others in the space of healing. I remember another time I had another girlfriend who experienced something equally traumatic. Her father used to beat her. And my girlfriend had so much promise, so many dreams and aspirations. And I think that was really the first time that I really recognized that that was her downfall and how her life would actually turn around. And I remember when she shared the time that her dad actually put his hands on her, that things would be different for her, but I had this sense that I wanted to help her, even though she didn't specifically ask me for help. And so I did what I knew best. I tapped into resources that I knew about as a kid, going to my parents and asking them for help on how to help my friend. And so my friend, unspoken words, was another cry for help. And it was something instinctively I could pick up on and know that I needed to step in and to help her heal and find resources to just be a kid and thrive. 2012 is the year I consider my transformative year. It was the year I got divorced after almost 10 years of marriage. And it was very traumatizing and devastating simultaneously. However, that wasn't the biggest part of the transformation for me. It was when my ex-husband changed his status on social media, when folks actually trolled me, dissected me, and talked trash about me. And that's when I realized I needed to take control and start my healing path. And it was tough because I had a 3-year-old son that I had to raise while being devastated at the loss of marriage, legacy, and things that we had built together as a dream, as a couple, and as a family. And so part of that journey was really going to therapy and trying to get help to really resolve my feelings of hurt, disappointment, because you don't go through divorce or get married to go through a divorce. And so that was one of the most challenging times in my life. But I recognized it was what was needed in order to break me open for what was next in my journey. And so that was the starting point. In 2017, the next major life change happened for me. It's when I actually found my mom deceased. And that was the toughest experience I've ever encountered in my life. That deep, profound loss is something that you don't get over. It's something that is a long process, an everlasting journey. And it's something that I had to go through and realize, what is my legacy? What is next? How do I heal? How do I make sure that my son is good? And going through that process of finding therapy, faith, God is what I learned, is what helped me in order to come up with processes and things in order to help others based off of my own experiences. there I was at a company I had been at for close to 10 years. I'm logging onto my computer, and I get an email from my old boss. And I literally cringed and started to cry and recognized that I needed to do something different because I had experienced toxic work environment that included gaslighting, making me shrink, second guessing my abilities and my talents that I brought to the organization. There were meetings where I was dismissed, talked down to. I was even talked about behind the scenes in other spaces and departments. And it got to the point where I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I was crying in meetings. I had a meltdown in front of my direct report. And it was sad because my direct report actually asked me or commented why it took me so long to have a meltdown, because she was privy to the behaviors of this particular leader and was witness to all of those things that I had experienced. And so after a year, I had to make a choice. What was I going to do about it? I had went through all the normal processes and policies of reporting it, taking FMLA, but then I remember logging in after being absent for several months. I couldn't do this anymore. I had to actually choose myself, choose me, and being healthy and not crying. It was showing up in all areas of my life, personally with my son, my family, and my friends. I was unhappy. I just didn't know who I was anymore, and I needed to come up with a strategy to change. And so what I did was I resigned. I was literally back less than 48 hours of the job from coming from FMLA. I sent him a message I resigned. It was one sentence. But to his manager, his boss, our boss, I sent a detailed email on why I no longer could serve that company any longer. I had to choose myself and advocate for myself and make a choice. And so I did. I left. I chose myself, and I wrote a book about my experience in order to help others. And now I actually coach others in that area to choose themselves, to advocate themselves to thrive. Wow, telling my 21-year-old self, what would I tell her? I think I would start out first by holding her hand and letting her know that it's going to be okay, that I see her and understand that she's ambitious, worthy, and loved. But in order to get to that side, you have to have faith. Faith is the fuel. And I recognize for me in certain situations, faith is still believing even when you don't know the other side, what's going to happen. With that toxic work environment, I had no provision in place. I hadn't worked in 4 months. 401k couldn't tap into. There was no resource. And so what I had to have faith in is advocating for myself and not allowing myself to suffer for a paycheck. And so that's exactly what I did. I stepped out on faith, knowing that God would have me covered and would provide provision. And provision doesn't always look like a 9-to-5 job. For me, it looked like a contract position in the areas that I had skill set in. And so for months, I was working as a contractor while I had family and friends actually offering to help me in this particular season of change and while I was still trying to figure out things. And faith is what I needed in order for me to push through one foot in front of the other, just believing that things would get better and I would be okay. I was taken care of, not only emotionally, spiritually, but also by provision. And so for me, that's one of the most important things I would tell my 21-year-old self, is that you gotta believe things will always get better and you'll get onto the other side. I wanna help women heal well in community. And one of the ways that I do that is through seismic life changes, such as burnout. I remember a woman named Shayla, divorced with a child, 6-figure earner, high-achieving woman, who experienced some health issues, long hours, and just didn't even realize she was experiencing burnout because of the things that she was going through. She was tired, fatigued, exhausted, couldn't even function, and experiencing a lot of different things like brain fog and other things. But that was just part of the story of burnout. She was also in midlife, experiencing the change, as we all know. That change, perimenopause. And so that was a combination of burnout that she was going through on top of her physical change as well. And so I help women come up with strategies to help them become optimal and be able to thrive. And we do that through various ways, through curated retreats, coaching, and other ways. And so it's really important to be able to help women like Shayla. Another woman that I've assisted was a woman that was going through a divorce, another high-achieving woman who was experiencing burnout on top of some mental health things. And so one of the ways I assisted her was going through resources to provide her therapy in order to be able to feel better and be okay in owning that. One of the ways I help women heal well is through my Pivot Well framework. And that is to help women come up with strategies through seismic life changes, such as grief, divorce, menopause, and career transitions. That is my legacy for all of us to heal well in community. Why do people hire the Heal Well Collective? It's because of trust, transformation, and results. I actually remember working with my client, Teresa. Teresa was going through some major seismic life changes from grief, menopause, transition, becoming an empty nester. And she had tried working with a lot of different people and just could not get results. And I remember having a coaching session with her, and she actually had a breakthrough. And I remember her calling me to say, thank you. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for providing me resources. Thank you for providing me strategies and steps that I can implement, but also a space of safety where I could feel seen and heard. And that is why I do the work that I do, is in order to help women who are experiencing seismic life changes actually have a plan and a strategy in place to heal well and thrive. What I have enjoyed most about this experience is the whole experience. From the time I walked in through the door, I was greeted and welcomed. It was a safe space. I was extremely nervous. I was coached and mentored, and my hand was held. And I would highly recommend this for any entrepreneur looking to make a difference and impact. And I would do this again.